Okay, so as I was saying, this is one of my favorite maps as a tier 7 carrier, but as a tier 6 carrier, probably not. So what you want to do in the beginning is, on this particular map, you always want to scout the center, or go around the center, and send one of your fighters towards the center. Now, since you're Ryujo and if you're fighting another Ryujo, now I would just say that you can choose to fight him and win air supremacy against him. But be very careful how you do it, because if you do lose the first engagement, you're going to be at a disadvantage. I'm using air supremacy because this is the only module I kept on the Ryujo, because I hate the goddamn ship. Yeah, the Ryujo was not a very good ship to me. Maybe it was because when I played it, I was still a noob carrier, but I never really liked it. The fighters are extremely weak. They're extremely susceptible to the Independence's fighters, which can usually win a 2-on-1 engagement against a Ryujo fighter without any problem.
I was gonna say, I quite enjoyed the Independence.
Yeah, the Independence is a very good ship. Now, so basically what you want to do is scout the center first. Now, you usually recognize that there's always going to be like a dog pile of people at C cap, at E9, F10, that, for example, and there's always going to be a dog pile of ships at the A flank as well. Now, one thing that you can do as a Ryujo is you can't do this as necessarily as well as a Hiryu or a Saipan can, but usually what happens is the center is usually very light on AA, because most battleships are still moving towards their associated flanks in the center, along the G line or the H line. So what you usually can do is, by scouting the center, you can see any AA exposed battleships, and just choose to strike those targets. As a Ryujo, what you want to do, though, if you're facing an Independence, is you want to distract the Independence's fighters while you're doing that. So you may want to, I don't know, push your fighter along the south of A to draw his fighter towards the south of A, and then strike something towards the C cap. Or you might want to do the opposite. Basically, my point is that you want to always make sure that your fighter is on the opposite flank of where your bombers are if you're facing an Independence. If you're facing a Ryujo, it really doesn't matter as long as you can win air supremacy against him. Yeah, that's my favorite tactic to use during the first stages of early game as a carry on this map, because, like I said, battleships are really very exposed, and since you're low tier as a tier 6, usually you're going to face New Yorks, Koenigs, Iron Dukes, and those ships are not particularly fast, which means they'll probably still be setting up heading towards A or C cap, and you can take advantage of that. Always use your dive bombers first, never use your torpedo bombers first. The reason why you want to do that is because you want to maximize your damage potential. So what I'm going to demonstrate on you, for example, but do you know how far away it takes for a plane to get detected visually for a player?
5? No,
it's
not
no,
really.
it's 8 kilometers. It's around 8 kilometers. So what you want to do is you always want, on these kinds of maps, you always want to keep your torpedo bombers around 2 grid squares away from your target. Just send a lone dive bomber in, bomb the target, like what I'm doing right now. So I'll just bomb you, for example. And the thing is, usually, since they don't, for example, you don't see my torpedo, well, you do see my torpedo bomber right now because it's right next to your dive bomber, but right now, my torpedo bomber is around 2 squares away. So most of the time, what people do is that they repair. I'm not going to distract you with my torpedo bombers, but usually what they do is they repair, since it's only one dive bomber, and they don't think you're going to strike anyone else. So, especially at low tier, so they usually repair the fire. You come in with your torpedo bombers, you get a flooding, and then you either flood him to death. Usually, you actually are able to.
Oh, now see, that's just rude.
Or you choose to good dodge show. Or you can choose to try to alpha strike them, but like I said, usually with Japanese carriers, especially with the Ryujo, I would highly
secondary third.
I would highly recommend to you that you just play it so that you try to DOT as much as you can. So don't alpha strike unless you have to. For example, if your team is short on points, then just alpha strike. But if that isn't the case, then just DOT.
I can go for like damage farming.
DOT is the most effective way of maximizing your damage potential, because
especially if flooding.
Yeah, because your bombers will be rearming, and while they're rearming, you're actually doing consistent damage. So you wanted me to talk to you specifically about squadron management, right?
Yeah, that is the thing. I'm like, I switched from Zugio, and I was in a like tier 8 match, So it was
Zuiho?
just everything fell apart.
Is it Zuiho?
Zuiho, whatever, however you pronounce it.
Well, how did you get
Zuiho.
into a tier 8 match as a Zuiho? You had to have failed division
No,
to
no,
actually
no.
do that. Or are you talking about the Ryuja?
No, in this, yes.
Okay, so in
The
a tier 8
first
match,
game was like tier 8,
the
and
thing
it's
is,
total fail.
do you know how to... Okay, you know the general trends of AA, right? So, for example, Americans you should avoid until the very ends of the match because they are usually
Yeah.
high AA ships. German ships you probably want to avoid in the beginning because their AA is mostly centered on a long range, which means you're going to take casualties coming in. And since most German battleships are paranoid about AP bombers, most of them have AA spec their battleships as well. So you want to avoid those, which leaves the Japanese and potentially the French when they get released. So what you want to do is when you go into a tier 8 match, you kind of have to watch for, I don't know, you have to watch for when there's a lack of AA. So a single tier 8 battleship like an Amagi can theoretically take down both of your torpedo bombers, but usually what happens is, to talk to you about this, basically if you send 2 of your dive bombers and 2 of your torpedo bombers towards a single Amagi, for example, you're probably going to land 2 fires on the Amagi. And the thing is, I would recommend that you actually stop trying to strike the Amagi after that. You want him to actually burn with those 2 fires, because otherwise, if you alpha strike him with torpedo bombers, he's just going to repair after that. So you might want to just send your torpedo bombers after another target. So you want to always look at the minimap, see if there's an isolated target, and then strike that target. Always launch your fighters first, followed by, well, actually for the Japanese, for the Ryujo especially, launch 1 dive bomber first, followed by your 1 fighter, followed by your torpedo bombers, then your last dive bomber. The reason why you want to do that is because you want to cause fire on a battleship, for example, and then follow up with a flooding immediately right after, before the enemy carrier has an opportunity to catch up to you. I should say that many carriers choose to go with an alternate launch pattern, which is both torpedo bombers first, followed by fighters, followed by dive bomber. The reason why you would do that is if you want to strike destroyer. If you want to potentially alpha strike a destroyer, then you would launch both torpedo bombers first, followed by a single dive bomber. In all honesty, I don't feel like destroyers are that influential during the first stages of the match, especially if you use your dive bomber to scout out them capping. Then those destroyers are basically useless. You don't need to alpha strike them. So yeah, the thing is, the best way I can actually, I mean, are you familiar with fighter fights and how to win fighter engagements? Because I should go over the basics with you on that.
Kind of, yes and no. I'm just trying to see how to strafe and all that. I know.
Okay. We'll try to strafe one of my fighters right now. The one that's closest to yours. Let's say I'm AFK with this one.
Oh, damn it.
You're taking a little bit too long.
So bad.
You executed the strafe too late. Okay, so you as a carrier should practice. So when you when you are about to strafe, you see that white dotted circle, right? When you're about to strafe something?
Yep, I see that.
Okay. Make sure that your fighter is always outside of that circle, otherwise he's going to double back, and then you have that happen, and you're going to miss your opportunity to strafe something. So... Okay, let me show you... Okay, so do you know how to identify when someone's strafing you? Because it's pretty obvious when you notice it.
Yeah, I mean, he will kind of do a jerking reaction or something like that.
A slight slowdown.
Sudden change in...
Yeah, you see that slight slowdown? Yeah, that's basically how you identify a strafe. So, when you see something like that, always turn to the side, or actually, do you want to practice dodging strafes? Because I would highly recommend you do that as a Ryujo, since your one fighter is very important.
You told me to strafe, right?
I told you to try to avoid strafes, but it's fine regardless. Now, that's probably what's going to happen if you try to execute a strafe too close to my fight. So, you saw what happened there, right? So, so basically, my recommendation to you most of the time, to most carriers that play in randoms or in competitive is that you should not use strafes as your first choice of attacking an enemy fighter. Potentially a bomber, but definitely not a fighter. The reason why is because it can do that against you, and then you're going to be down a fighter. Can you rearm that one?
Okay, yeah, I got that.
Yeah, so the best way to win air fights without having to rely on strafes is first strike. Do you know how to use first strike?
First strike with fighters?
Yes.
No, not really. I don't really
Okay.
know the terms, but I might have seen it.
There is in the carrier training guide. I would highly recommend that you read it. But first strike is not really that heavily touched up on because so basically what first strike is that when a fighter is moving and he's been given no command to target an enemy fighter, and he is attacked by an enemy fighter, the enemy fighter will get first tick of damage on him, whereas he will not be able to inflict any first tick of damage on the enemy fighter. In which case the enemy fighter starts off with an initial significant advantage, right?
Yeah, and he'll win eventually. Yeah,
You'll win eventually, yes. First strike doesn't guarantee how many casualties you will take, it only guarantees that you'll win the engagement eventually. It is very useful, especially against carriers that you know can avoid strafes. For example, if you can actually engage that one fighter right there. So for example, if I'm trying to avoid your strafe, and I just constantly circle around my fighter like this, constantly changing position, then Shasha, you can engage my fighter, by the way. I want you to...
Yeah, trying to do that.
Okay. Essentially, I'm going to be constantly trying to dodge your strafe, potentially. And did you just strafe? I'm pretty sure you did.
Yes, I did that.
I'm trying to teach you first strike. You don't strafe if you're going to use first strike.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to pretend that I'm trying to avoid your strafe. So I'm going to do it like this. I want you to just chase my fighter, okay?
Okay.
So while he's avoiding your strafe, you wouldn't strafe this person, but you would basically follow him. And then you lock up. And you're most likely going to get first blood against my squadron, which you do. So you kill my first fighter. And you will eventually win that engagement. Your engine is quite powerful, Sith. You're pushing me backwards.
I'm going 10 kilometers or 10 knots as well.
Yeah. But yeah, as you can see, you're eventually going to win the engagement outright. Yep, like I said. So it only guarantees how many. It only guarantees that you're gonna win. It doesn't guarantee anything else. You could have potentially actually had 4 fighters left in that squadron, but that's no guarantee. But yeah, so do you know how to identify when you should use first strike or not?
No, not really.
So when you see an enemy fighter idling, fighter idling, you have 2 choices. You can either choose to strafe him, or you can choose to use first strike. What I like to do is if I see the enemy carrier is trying to strike something, rearm your fighter, by the way. If the enemy's carrier is trying to strike something and he's idled his fighters, that means he's unlikely going to notice that you're strafing his fighters. So you should strafe in that circumstance. So if you look at the minimap and you see his bombers are right next to a bunch of your allied battleships, for example, then strafe. But if you don't see that and you see that his bombers are nowhere to be seen, then he could either be idling his fighters intentionally to try to get you to strafe him, or he could just simply be idling them. But usually in that circumstance, I just use first strike, and I just engage the fighter manually, just to minimize any potential risk.
Okay, I see.
Now, if you see an enemy fighter constantly dodging, moving away, like what I did against you, then that is also a perfect opportunity to use first strike, for obvious reasons. Because thing is, what first strike is when you click on an enemy fighter and the enemy fighter is not given an order to actually attack your fighter, and they both engage. That's what first strike is. So if you see him running away from you and you can catch up to him, then just lock him up, and then he'll be forced to escape strafe. And when he's forced to escape strafe, you can just back strafe him and then win the engagement outright. That's what you want to force with this kind of thing.
Okay.
So I'm gonna teach you one last thing because you probably are running low on fighters. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, just
so basically, let me just. So I want you to engage my fighter. And I want you
First time or straight?
manual lock up.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want you to lock up, and then I'm gonna escape strafe, and I want you to basically click on the map with your fighter, and then immediately follow with the strafe. Now you did it too late. The reaction time necessary for this is approximately around half of a second to a quarter of a second. So I want you to try that again. I want you to immediately, so what you want to do is you want to click on the map in the direction that the fighter is heading towards, and then immediately straight from behind. So you're...
Oh, come on.
Yeah, you need to click on the map. Don't click on the fighter, click on the map itself. So let me lock up with you again. Okay?
Oh, the
What are
button
you doing?
is not pressing. I don't know.
You need to click on your fighter, then click on the map. Don't click on anywhere else, just click on the map. Click anywhere on the map.
Oh, right now.
Rearm your fighter. You probably
Okay.
have run out of ammunition.
So what I was trying to do is like when you were running away,
Yeah.
that is when I was pressing Alt and
Don't do
I was
that.
trying
That
to
is
click.
not how it works. You can't tell your fighter to alt attack something. You need to click on the map to remove the lock on, and then immediately
Oh,
strafe from behind.
I see.
So you need to click on the map. Don't try to strafe immediately because that's never gonna work. You need to click on the map to actually cancel the lock in, and then strafe from behind.
Okay.
So let me try that again. So I want you to engage my fighter. I'm going to strafe south. So you want to click in the direction. So I'm going to head south. There we go. Strafe from behind. Now you executed the strafe too close to your fighter. That's the reason why that
Too
happened.
close to my fighter.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned that you have to always avoid the dotted line. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to strafe south. That's too late. You're too far away.
Oh, I see.
Like I said, your reaction time has to be within half a second. Let me engage again. I'm going to strafe south. There we go. That's perfect. You strafe too close again. You need to stop doing that. Give yourself some room. The thing is, as long as you're following the fighter, you don't have to rush the strafe from behind. As long as you're following it, as long as your fighter is moving, you don't have to worry about... Actually, do you still have ammunition on that fighter? Because it can still do this.
They are too...
Oh, too empty? Okay, let's not do that then. Rearm?
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as your fighter is like... For example, let me show you right now. So pretend that my fighter right now is chasing yours. You don't have to rush the strafe from behind. You don't have to do that at all. Just keep following the fighter. Just tell your fighter to follow behind and then just casually execute a strafe.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Oh, we have 58 seconds to do this, so let's try to hurry this as much as possible. But if we need to do this again, I can always give another session. Your fighter probably will rearm in around 10 seconds or so, and then launch in another. Yep. Okay. So once again, I'm gonna strafe south, and I want you. Want you to engage. I'm gonna strafe south. Just engage my fighter. Yep, there we go. I'm gonna strafe south. Follow. Execute a strafe. That's a little bit too far away. But you do catch my fighter with a little bit of a strafe. If you had a full squadron, you probably would have been able to kill one or two. Let me try that again. Let's try this as quickly as possible. I'm gonna strafe south. Okay, good. You're gonna execute a two strafe again. You need to stop doing that. Stop being so what's the word? Stop being so focused on strafing immediately right after you disengage the lock. Give yourself some space. The worst part about this is that if you mess this up, you let the enemy carrier escape. And you won't be able to follow up with any counter strafe or anything else like that. So you always want to always give yourself the best opportunity. Never second guess yourself in these kinds of things, because by second guessing yourself, you're just gonna either mess up the strike or you're gonna mess it up somehow, and you're not gonna be able to actually get advantage of it. Bring AS if you have the loadout module, by the way, and the room is up again.
Bring what?
Bring AS on the Ryujo if you have that.
AF? What's that?
AS, as in the 311
Air
loadout. If
superiority.
you have that. If you
You
don't
want
have
me
that, then it's fine.
bring my Alabama?
It's fine, Show. we're probably not gonna bomb you, but if you bring your
I
Alabama,
was gonna say, like, if you need it to like show the differences and discrepancies
in
for
AA?
but
actually, just bring the Yamato. I'll actually show you because Yamato's AA, I think, is actually pretty representative of a
tier 8, yeah.
of a tier 8's AA, especially the Bismarck. An AA spec to Bismarck is most likely going to be representative of that.
And I mean, I don't have any AA spec on it, so.
Okay, that's good. Sasha, do you have the 311
Yep.
loadout? Or okay,
I have it.
okay. This actually gives us more flexibility. But okay. So once again, like I said, if you're facing an AS carrier, don't even bother fighting him with your one fighter because you're outnumbered 3-1. It's always unlikely that you're gonna win in 3-1 conventionally. So what you want to do is always hover near your Clevelands. Always tell your Clevelands to stay close to your battleships, things like that. If you're facing a 3-1-1 Ryujo, always park your fighters next to Clevelands, Atlantas, Bayerns, New Mexicos, and those are basically the most dependable ships for your team.
Okay.
And even the New Mexico is actually not that good, or the Bayern is not that good for preventing you from losing your fighter entirely if he stacks all 3 on top of yours and he attacks. The best way is just the Atlanta. The Gneisenau, if you have an allied Gneisenau, he's probably AA spec. That would be an excellent ship to actually rely on for taking down his fighter plane. But you always want to choose to play defensively if you're facing an AS cruiser, or if you lose the fighter engagement, play defensively and then see if there's an opportunity that you can take to strike a target. So let's try that again. So these are basic fighter tactics, and keep in mind, Sasha, this tactic, this counter escape strafe, is usually followed up, or actually no, is usually the follow-up to you achieving first strike on a fighter. So when you achieve first strike on a fighter, what usually happens is you cause the enemy fighter to lose the first fighter, right?
Yeah, and he'll try to run away.
And then he'll try to run away, and then you counter him running away, and then etc, etc, etc. So lock up, and then I'll strafe south again.
Yeah.
So just lock up. With
Yep,
your
I
fight.
did.
Yeah, okay. I'll strafe south again. Yes, you're in good position. You execute the strafe too close again.
Okay.
Stop doing that. Stop. Yeah, you're just... Yeah, just... I don't know why you keep executing the strafe so close. I keep telling you to avoid the dotted circle as much as possible. Let me try that again. Okay, you're in good position. Good. There we go. That's how you execute it properly. You'll get a hang for it as you play it more often. I'll say, as you do this more often, I'll say. So like I said, when you get first strike against a carrier, there's no reason for you to do any of this. You'll win the engagement anyways, and as a Ryujo, just winning the engagement is all that you need. So I'm strafing south again. Good. You executed too close again.
This is the only second time I'm kind of like doing the strafe, so
that's fine.
My
I'm
bad.
engaging again, strafing south. Too far away. At this point, I wouldn't even actually bother strafing. I would just run away, basically.
Okay, I got one fighter.
Yeah. But the reason why that was the case was because I didn't actually choose to head any farther away from your fighter. Good.
Okay.
Good, you executed that properly. Okay, I'm using my last fighter. I'm engaging this one. Heading south again. Good. Very good.
Okay, got it.
That's how you do it. Like I said, don't second guess yourself when you're trying to counter an escape strafe, because what you're gonna do is you're just gonna mess it up, most likely. There's also a second way.
For no reason.
Yeah. And the thing is, messing this up is actually worse than doing anything else. And the reason why I say that is because you let the enemy carrier escape an otherwise deadly situation with his fighters. He would have lost all of his fighters if he actually was able to keep first strike. But he escaped, and you were unable to actually follow up with that. So there's a second way of actually doing an escape strafe counter, and I'll just show you. Can you escape strafe? Me this time, because I took most. So escape strafe north for me, please.
Oh, right.
Or that way, that's fine. But basically, you see that I'm not strafing you, but I'm just following your fighter, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like that. So that's also another way that you can choose to counter an escape strafe. Now the thing is, you notice, and I'll actually show this to you again, but can you escape strafe again? Actually, no, hold on, let me give my second fighter out. Hold on, my second fighter's coming. Okay, engage with that first one, please, again, and escape strafe south or north, it's your choice.
Okay. I'll go south.
Okay, go south. Okay, now what you'll notice is if I do it this way, your fighter stops and my fighter stops, right? And it's separated slightly. So what I can do at this point is I can use a surgical strafe, and I will just strafe your fighter, and my fighter remains basically unharmed, mostly. And then, god damn it, if only we actually got that together. But actually, lock up with your fighter. Actually, I'll show you a surgical strafe, a true surgical strafe. Why take 0 casualties?
Okay, bringing it.
I'll engage with this one. Yep. Okay, so let me do a true surgical strafe. So what you'll see is that your fighter loses, and mine loses nothing. You shot down that one, but that's what a surgical strafe is. Basically, a surgical strafe is you only strafe the enemy fighters, and the thing is, the good thing about this is that your own fighter takes 0 casualties. Can you disengage from that lock, please? Yeah, okay. Or I'll just kill it, never mind.
Yeah. How do you disengage, by the way? I mean, like, you click on it and then click on somewhere else?
To disengage the lock?
Yeah.
You click away, so you select your fighter, then click on anywhere on the map, don't click on any bomber or any fighter. So for example, yep, and then you just chase it. And the thing is, I don't think I demonstrated that well enough, but basically the moment that it breaks, you click on your fighter and you immediately click on the enemy fighter. Is that understood? So you would, for example, re-engage manually again on this alternate way of doing it. So let's engage. I'll strafe north, click on my fighter, click on the map, then click on my fighter immediately. Yeah, I don't have enough ammunition on that plane anymore.
Late. Yeah.
Stop engaging. Thank you. Okay. That's how you do it. Should I feel threatened, Sits, with all of your guns pointing at me?
I can't aim low enough.
So yeah, that's let me actually try to demonstrate with one of my low health squadrons, but yeah, that's what you want to do.
Okay.
Wonder what would happen if you actually shot me.
You want to find out?
Sure.
Hang on, let me get...
What's going on?
You'll see in the video when it's uploaded.
That's a lot of overpens.
Yeah, that's a lot of overpens. Alright then, Sasha, I'll engage with your full health squadron. So I want you to do is I want you to just follow my squadron north, understood?
Which one?
The low. You know what, I'm just gonna just use one of your squadrons. Yeah, that one. Okay. Yeah. I'll do that one. I'll strafe north, immediately click, and then follow. Just follow. Yep, there we go.
Yep.
And then the squadron will remain attached until it's destroyed. And the funny thing is, most inexperienced carriers don't know is that for them to prevent a surgical strafe, what they should do is when they have that squadron locked in like that, they should tell the squadron to re-engage. And things like that. So yeah, those are basic fighter tactics for the Regio. Like I said, especially with the Regio, what you want is you always want to get first strike since you only have one squadron to work with. You don't have two
Yeah.
squadrons to work with in the usual random battle because you only use 1, 2, 2, and that prevents you from using the utility of having 2 fighters, because 2 fighters is extremely useful for being able to counter escape strafe, for countering lockups, things like that. Since you're only using 1 fighter, like I said, your 1 fighter is very valuable. So I'll send you off with this. So like I said, do you know how to identify when you can use first strike and when you can't?
First strike, when he's kind of like
When he's just
idling
moving.
and not doing
When
anything.
he's idling and you know that he's idling, his fighters can just strafe. Don't use first strike because that's wasteful of your time. But when you see him moving with his fighters, for example, like this right now, when he's not even heading towards any of your fighters, this is a perfect position to actually use first strike. Don't engage my fighters, but basically when he's moving away like this, just choose to lock him up, for example, if he's full health. An alternate method is if you see, with your northernmost squadron, just pretend that my fighter is actually at full health. But if you see my fighter chasing your fighter, just the thing is, it becomes a little bit of a crapshoot which one will get first strike. So what you want to do is, like what you're doing right now, is drag him back to your allied A. So just continue dragging him back to your allied AA or something like that, and then choose to engage him then. And then you're guaranteed first strike and also allied AA advantage. And the moment if he chooses to stop following you, for example, so just try to draw my fighter north again, like in a simulation, Sasha, with that fighter. Yeah, so for example, if my fighter is chasing yours up north, like this, and then I suddenly break off, what you can do is, if I'm close enough, is that you can just choose to strafe him, or just choose to engage him, like try to get first strike again, or just strafe him from behind, that kind of stuff. Those are the 2 methods that you should use. Always use allied AA as a regio. I cannot stress that enough. You don't have enough fighters to actually make it so that you last very long in a pitched fighter engagement. So what you always want to do is always want to engage with allied AA supporting you. Never engage without allied AA. Okay? So my last recommendation to you is, if you're facing a tier 8 match, always look for lone battleships and always work your way up from lowest tier to highest tier ship. So if you see a Bayern or you see an Arizona on the enemy team in a tier 8 match, target the Bayern or Arizona first, and then just go up the tiers as you play during the match. Against an AA spec Bismarck, you're likely going to lose all of your bombers if he isn't down.
I'm not gonna do that.
In
I've
regards
had
to AA,
ones
the
with
Yamato is more
Cleveland.
comparable to North Carolina.
Yeah. If you're striking in North Carolina, I have no idea what you're doing with your life, because you should be striking in North Carolina with Ryujo bombers. If you are striking in Amagi, always choose your approach vector carefully. And when I say that, I mean, for example, if you look at Sitz right now, if he's turning towards your bombers, always position it so that your bombers overlead him. If he's turning away from your bombers, always position your bombers overlead that turn as well, just as a precaution. So right now, for example, he's turning. If he's smart, he'll actually just turn in towards your bombers, which is what he's doing right now. The thing is that if his AA is activated, for example, then
it isn't, or else those planes would be dead.
Okay. Well, basically, yeah, you can see that. And the thing is, against most high AA ships, what you just want to do is just use is just try to get them on fire. And if they repair, stack your double torpedo bombers on top of each other and just strike him once he repairs. And you know the countdown for the repair party cooldown, right? It's 20 seconds for Americans, 15 seconds for Germans, and French, and British, and it's only 10 seconds for the Japanese. So if you notice...
I noticed that.
So yeah, if you notice in the in-game time, if you notice that you've struck something like 20 seconds ago, and that you're no longer getting any damage from your strike, then that shows you that the enemy battleship has repaired and you're ready to strike him and then cause DOT. So use that to your advantage, stacking DOT, especially on tier. When you're up tiered, you want to stack DOT. When you're down tiered and you're facing tier 5 ships, you can alpha strike if you want, but I would still recommend that you DOT for maximum efficiency. But you can alpha strike, and things like that. So yeah, those are all my recommendations for you, Sasha. I hope that was helpful. I have to get going now, so I wish you luck in carrier matches. If you want to division, I might be able to division later this evening, etc., etc., etc. Do you have any other questions for me?
How about like dropping the torpedoes manually?
What about it?
There's a certain distance that I have to maintain
Yes.
before it loads, right?
Yes.
So how do I see that?
You have to gauge it by eye, and from experience. Usually for the Japanese torpedo bombers, what you want to do is you want to have the enemy ship around a third of the length away. So so when you have your torpedo bomber selected, for example, you want the battleship or the ship in question to be around a third of the length away from the actual target. Now, I would highly recommend that you do this. Since you're starting off in carriers and you're not that familiar with the drop patterns, I want you to drop farther away than you would want to. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you drop too close, none of your torpedoes are going to arm and you're going to do 0 damage. At least if you drop farther away, you probably will hit 1 or 2 torpedoes, most likely 1. But at least that's damage compared to 0 damage overall.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you always want to start halfway, and then move closer. The thing is, if you feel like you're comfortable, you can actually move up to around a third, and then just move in like this, and then you'll be able to do it. For example, right now, what
you
I'm
bastard.
dropping. Yeah, I know, it's such an evil bastard.
No, it's not even fair.
For example, I'm dropping right now, and I'm gonna hit 3 torpedoes, and that's from a third of a length away. So yeah, start dropping from the optimal distance is around a third of the distance, but like I said, start dropping from a little bit farther away, maybe half, maybe 40%, and just get closer and closer as you drop. But I can't really help you with that. It's based on your experience. Just like with strafing, just like with noticing when you can use first strike, it's all experience based. So you just have to build that kind of experience. Okay?
Okay.
Alright then. I hope it was helpful, Sasha. I'm gonna end the session. I have to get going now.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.